Before you scroll, before you tell yourself, I'll watch this later, pause for a second and listen carefully, because what you're about to hear is not motivation meant to make you feel good. It's meant to wake you up. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they misunderstand time, effort, and themselves. They start strong, talk big, feel powerful for a moment, and then slowly disappear. Not loudly, not dramatically. Quietly, they fade back into normal life, convincing themselves that they tried. But deep down, they know they didn't really commit. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If your life hasn't changed yet, it's not because you're unlucky. It's because you've been living on excitement instead of mindset. This moment right now matters more than January ever did. Because when the noise is gone, when motivation isn't trending anymore, when nobody is cheering, this is when your real self shows up. This is where the future version of you is either built or abandoned. You don't need another hype speech. You don't need someone screaming at you to work harder. What you need is a shift in how you think. A mindset strong enough to survive boredom, confusion, slow progress, and doubt. A mindset that doesn't break when results are delayed. A mindset that keeps moving when feelings disappear. Most people want fast change. Very few are willing to become patient builders. They want clarity before action, confidence before effort, success before discipline. But life doesn't work in that order. It never has. If you've ever felt behind, if you've ever started something and questioned yourself halfway, if you've ever wondered whether you're wasting time, then this video is not random. It's a mirror. And mirrors don't lie, but they give you a choice. You can keep doing what feels comfortable and stay exactly where you are. Or you can listen closely, accept the discomfort, and begin thinking like someone who actually finishes what they start. This is not about being perfect. It's about being consistent when no one is watching. It's about making small decisions that don't look impressive today, but will completely change your life over time. It's about understanding that confusion doesn't mean failure, slow progress doesn't mean weakness, and starting again doesn't mean you lost. If you stay until the end, you won't just feel motivated. You'll understand something most people never do. And once you understand it, there's no going back to thinking small, quitting early, or waiting for the right time. So stay. Let this sink in. Because the mindset you choose today decides where you'll be months from now, whether you like it or not. February is not late. It is the checkpoint. And this single idea can completely change how you see your year, your goals, and yourself. Most people treat time emotionally. They see January as hope, February as pressure, and March as regret. They believe success follows the calendar, as if ambition has an expiry date. When January ends without visible results, they quietly convince themselves that the opportunity is gone. But real growth does not operate on months. It operates on decisions. February exists to test whether you were serious or just excited. January is full of noise. Everyone is motivated. Everyone is posting goals, routines, plans, and promises. The crowd is loud, and being part of it feels easy. February is quieter. The excitement fades. Disciplines to asking real questions. This is why February is powerful. It reveals who was chasing a feeling and who was building a future. If January was the announcement, February is the execution. Being alerted is a dangerous lie people tell themselves to escape responsibility. They say they are behind, so they slow down. They say they missed the start, so they stop trying. But life does not reward perfect timing. It rewards persistence. Many successful journeys didn't start on January 1st. They started on random days, after mistakes, after losses, after delays. The idea that you must begin at the right time is an excuse disguised as logic. February is a checkpoint because it forces honesty. You look at your habits and realize which ones were real and which ones were temporary. You see whether you were committed to change or addicted to motivation. Winners don't get discouraged by this moment. They use it. They adjust their approach instead of abandoning their direction. They don't ask, why am I behind? They ask, what do I need to fix? Adjusting is a skill most people never learn. They believe quitting is the only option when something doesn't work. But every meaningful process requires correction. If your routine didn't stick, you redesign it. If your focus disappeared, you simplify your goals. If your discipline broke, you rebuild it smaller and stronger. February gives you permission to recalibrate without shame. The problem is not that people fail in January. The problem is that they judge themselves too early. They expect visible transformation in weeks when real change takes months or years. This impatience kills more dreams than lack of talent ever will. February teaches patience by force. It strips away illusions and replaces them with reality. And reality, while uncomfortable, is where progress actually happens. Another reason February matters is because effort without awareness is wasted. January effort is often blind. People work hard but don't measure, reflect, or refine. February asks you to pause just enough to learn. What drained your energy? What gave results? What distracted you? This awareness turns effort into strategy. Without it, people stay busy but stuck. When you see February as a checkpoint, pressure turns into clarity. Instead of panicking, you gain control. You realize you still have 10 months left. 10 months of learning, building, failing forward, and improving. 10 months is more than enough to transform a life. But only if you stop romanticizing the start and start respecting the process. There is also a deeper psychological shift here. When you accept that February is not late, you stop competing with imaginary timeline. You stop comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. You understand that your path is allowed to be slow, different, and imperfect. This frees mental energy that comparisons steal. And that energy can finally be used for growth. Winners are not people who always start strong. They are people who continue when the start loses its excitement. They understand that consistency after motivation fades is the real advantage. February is where this advantage is built, quietly, repeatedly, without applause. Think about it. Anyone can be motivated for a week. Anyone can promise big things when the year feels fresh. But can you show up when no one is watching? Can you keep moving when results are invisible? Can you commit without guarantees? February answers these questions. Seeing February as a checkpoint also builds resilience. You stop seeing setbacks as proof that you're not capable. You see them as data. This mindset turns frustration into fuel. Instead of emotional reactions, you make logical adjustments. This is how maturity is formed, not through success alone, but through reflection after struggle. Most people wait for motivation to return. Smart people build systems that don't need it. February is when systems matter more than feelings. Simple routines, small goals, daily non-negotiables. Nothing dramatic, nothing flashy, just repeatable actions. Over time, these actions compound quietly into confidence. And here's the truth few people accept. The year doesn't belong to the person who starts fastest. It belongs to the person who stays consistent the longest. February rewards those who understand this early. It gives them a head start while others are busy quitting. So when someone says February is late, remember this. Late compared to what? Compared to an imaginary standard? Compared to social media timelines? Compared to expectations that were never realistic? Progress has no deadline. Growth has no calendar. Only direction matters. February is not a reminder of failure. It is a reminder of choice. You can choose to adjust instead of quit. You can choose to learn instead of judge yourself. You can choose discipline over disappointment. That choice, repeated daily, is what separates those who talk about change from those who become it. If you understand this first key note deeply, February becomes powerful instead of discouraging. It becomes the month where clarity replaces confusion, commitment replaces excitement, and patience replaces pressure. And once that shift happens, the rest of the year starts working in your favor, quietly, steadily, and relentlessly. Small actions beat big excuses, and this truth sounds simple until you try to live by it. Most people don't fail because they lack ambition. They fail because they overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect energy, the perfect setup. In that waiting, time quietly moves on. Big excuses feel intelligent. They sound reasonable. They protect the ego. But small actions don't care about your mood, your background, or your confidence. They only care that you show up. Big excuses often disguised as deep thinking. People say they need clarity before starting, motivation before acting, or confidence before trying. In reality, clarity comes from action, motivation follows movement, and confidence is built through repetition. Waiting for these things first is like waiting to get strong before going to the gym. It never works. Small actions flip this logic. They say, start where you are, with what you have. Even if it feels insignificant, consistency is not glamorous. Posting one video, reading one page, practicing one skill, waking up 10 minutes earlier. None of these will impress anyone today. That's why most people ignore them. They want actions that feel heroic. They want results that are visible fast. But the world is shaped by boring discipline repeated daily. The most powerful changes begin so small that they feel pointless at first. Excuses grow when actions are too big. When goals are unrealistic, failure feels inevitable, and the mind rushes to protect itself. I don't have time. I'm not ready yet. I'll start next week. These excuses are emotional shields. They stop the pain of effort and the risk of disappointment. Small actions bypass this defense system. They feel safe enough to attempt, yet powerful enough to create momentum. Momentum is everything. Once you start moving, staying still feels uncomfortable. But if you never start, staying stuck feels normal. Small actions create this movement. One completed task proves you can do another. One disciplined day makes the next day easier. Over time, this momentum reshapes your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and quits. You start seeing yourself as someone who shows up. Big excuses also come from fear of being judged. People are scared of starting badly, failing publicly, or being seen as inexperienced, so they hide behind preparation. They plan endlessly, consume content, and talk about what they will do someday. Small actions break this illusion. They force you into the real world, where progress is messy but honest, and honesty is far more valuable than perfection. Another reason small actions matter is because discipline is a muscle. You cannot lift heavy discipline on day one. You train it gradually. Trying to overhaul your entire life overnight almost always leads to burnout. But committing to something small daily strengthens your ability to commit to bigger things later. This is how long-term consistency is built. Excuses feel good in the short term because they reduce pressure. But in the long term, they create regret. Small actions may feel uncomfortable now, but they create peace later. There's a deep satisfaction in knowing you did something, even if it was small. That satisfaction compounds just like effort does. People often misunderstand consistency. They think it means doing something perfectly every day. Real consistency means returning after you fail. Missing a day doesn't break consistency. Quitting does. Small actions make returning easier. When the commitment is realistic, you're less likely to abandon it completely. There's also a mental shift that happens when you focus on small actions instead of big outcomes. You stop obsessing over results and start focusing on process. This reduces anxiety. You're no longer asking, will this work? You're asking, did I show up today? That question is controllable. And control builds confidence. Over time, small actions stack into skills, habits, and reputation. People eventually notice, not because you announced your goals, but because your growth becomes visible. What looks slow in the beginning suddenly looks impressive in hindsight. This is the quiet power of consistency. Big excuses, on the other hand, keep resetting the clock. Every time you delay, you start again from zero. Small actions never reset. Even on bad days, they keep you connected to your goal. That connection matters more than intensity. The hardest part is trusting that small efforts matter when there is no immediate proof. This requires faith in the process, all in all. But every great achievement is built on this trust. No one sees the daily repetition at the beginning. They only see the outcome at the end and call it talent or luck. When you commit to small actions, you stop negotiating with yourself. You remove drama from progress. It becomes normal to work, normal to practice, normal to improve. This normalcy is powerful. It turns effort into lifestyle. In the end, success is rarely one bold decision. It is thousands of small, often invisible decisions made consistently. Small actions beat big excuses because excuses keep you comfortable, and comfort never changed a life. Small actions move you forward quietly, steadily, and relentlessly. And that is how real transformation happens. Confusion is normal before clarity, yet most people treat confusion as a warning sign instead of a doorway. They assume that if they don't feel certain, confident, or clear, then something must be wrong. In reality, confusion is not the absence of progress. It is often proof that progress has begun. Whenever you step into something new, your old understanding becomes insufficient. That gap between what you know and what you need to know feels uncomfortable. And that discomfort is what we call confusion. People who avoid confusion also avoid growth. They stay in familiar routines not because those routines are right, but because they are understandable. The mind prefers certainty, even if that certainty leads nowhere. Clarity feels safe, but confusion feels risky. Yet every meaningful transformation starts with a phase where nothing makes complete sense. New skills, new environments, new responsibilities, all of them begin in mental fog. The problem is that society romanticizes clarity. We celebrate people who look like they have everything figured out. We quote success stories that skip the messy middle and jump straight to the breakthrough. What we don't see are the months or years of uncertainty, self-doubt, wrong decisions, and trial and error. When people experience confusion in their own journey, they think they are failing, when in fact they are simply in the process. Confusion is a sign that your old mental models are breaking. You are questioning assumptions you once accepted. You are realizing that the path is more complex than you expected. This is not weakness. This is intelligence adjusting to reality. If everything felt clear from the start, it would mean you are repeating something you already know. Growth demands that you walk into the unknown. Many people quit during this phase because confusion feels heavy. It creates anxiety. It triggers fear of making the wrong choice. So they retreat to comfort, or they wait for perfect certainty before moving forward. But clarity does not come before action. It comes because of action. You don't think your way into understanding, you move your way into it. This is why doing something imperfectly is more powerful than waiting to do it perfectly. Action creates feedback. Feedback creates learning. Learning creates clarity. Without action, confusion has no exit. When you act, even clumsily, the fog begins to thin. Confusion also humbles you. It reminds you that you don't know everything, and that humility keeps you open to learning. People who believe they already have clarity stop listening, stop adapting, and stop improving. Confusion keeps you curious. It forces you to ask better questions, seek guidance, and observe more carefully. Curiosity is a far more powerful tool than confidence. Another truth people struggle to accept is that clarity often arrives slowly, not all at once. It doesn't feel like a sudden light switch. It feels like gradual alignment. Things begin to make a little more sense each day. Patterns emerge. Decisions become easier. But if you expect instant clarity, you will miss these subtle shifts and assume nothing is changing. There's also emotional growth hidden inside confusion. When things are unclear, you are forced to sit with discomfort. You learn patience. You learn resilience. You learn to trust yourself even when the path is not obvious. These internal skills matter as much as external success. Without them, even clarity can become fragile. Confusion tests commitment. When results are clear, anyone can stay motivated. When everything feels uncertain, only those with purpose continue. This is why confusion separates people who are serious from those who are curious. Serious people keep going, even when they don't fully understand the outcome. Curious people step back when certainty disappears. It's important to understand that confusion does not mean you are lost. It means you are exploring. Being lost implies no direction. Confusion often happens when you have direction but not yet mastery. You know where you want to go, but you don't know how to get there. That gap is not a dead end. It is a classroom. Many people search for clarity in external validation. They want guarantees, approval, or reassurance before moving forward. But clarity built on validation is unstable. True clarity is built through experience. It comes from trial, failing, adjusting, and trying again. That kind of clarity stays with you. If you allow confusion instead of fighting it, it becomes less right. You stop asking, "Oh, why don't I know?" and start asking, "Oh, what can I learn?" That shift changes everything. Learning-focused minds grow. Outcome-focused minds panic. In the long run, the people who succeed are not the ones who avoided confusion. They are the ones who walked through it without letting it define them. They didn't rush clarity or force decisions prematurely. They allowed themselves to be beginners, to make mistakes, to feel uncertain, and to continue anyway. Confusion is not a flaw in the journey. It is part of the design. It shapes your thinking, strengthens your judgment, and deepens your understanding. Clarity earned through confusion is stronger than clarity given easily. It is rooted in experience, not assumption. So when confusion shows up, don't label it as failure. Recognize it. Find that you are stretching beyond what you already know. Stay patient. Keep moving. Ask better questions. Take small steps. With time and effort, the fog will lift. And when clarity finally arrives, it won't feel like luck. It will feel like something you earned. Your environment doesn't decide your future. Your decisions do. And this idea is uncomfortable because it removes excuses. It tells you that while circumstances influence you, they do not own you. Many people blame where they come from, who surrounds them, or what they lack. They say success belongs to those in better places, with better resources, better connections. This belief feels logical, but it quietly steals power. The moment you believe your environment controls your destiny, you stop trying to control your choices. Environment shapes your starting point, not your ending point. You don't choose where you are born, the family you grow up in, or the early limitations you face. But at some point, responsibility shifts. The future is built not by what happened to you, but by how you respond to it. Two people can grow up in the same conditions and end up in completely different lives. The difference is not luck, it is decision-making. People often confuse influence with control. Yes, environment influences your mindset, your habits, and your expectations. But influence is not authority. Authority belongs to the choices you make daily. Every decision either strengthens the environment's grip on you or weakens it. Choosing to learn when learning is not encouraged. Choosing discipline when chaos is normal. Choosing patience when shortcuts are celebrated. These decisions slowly rewrite your future. The most dangerous environments are not always the poorest or most difficult. Sometimes the most limiting environments are comfortable ones. Places where survival is easy but growth is optional. Where average is accepted and ambition is mocked. In such environments, the pressure to stay the same is strong. Breaking away requires courage, not resource. It requires deciding to think differently, even when everyone around you thinks the same. Many people wait for their environment to change before they change. They say they will work harder when things improve, focus better when life becomes easier, or dream bigger when support appears. But environment rarely changes first. It responds to movement. When you make better decisions, your environment begins to shift around you. New people appear. New opportunities open. New standards form. But it starts internally. Decisions are powerful because they compound. One good decision rarely changes a life. Repeated good decisions do. Choosing to wake up earlier. Choosing to learn instead of scroll. Choosing to practice instead of complain. These choices seem small, but over time they build skills, confidence, and independence. Eventually, the environment that once limited you becomes irrelevant. Blaming environment is comforting because it removes pressure. If the problem is external, then the solution is out of your hands. But growth begins when you accept that even in unfair conditions, you still have agency. Agency does not mean the journey will be easy. It means it is possible. There will always be people who add advantages you didn't. Comparing yourself to them only creates bitterness. The real comparison is between who you were yesterday and who you are becoming today. That comparison is entirely decision-based. Every day offers choices that move you closer to or further from your potential. Another truth people avoid is that environment improves after internal change, not before. When your standards rise, certain habits no longer fit. Certain conversations feel draining. Certain relationships lose relevance. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. Your decisions begin filtering your environment naturally. People who escape limiting environments often face resistance. When you change, others feel exposed. Your discipline makes excuses uncomfortable. Your growth challenges their comfort. This pressure pushes many people back into old patterns. Staying committed requires deciding whose expectations matter more. Theirs or your futures. Education, skills, mindset, and resilience are decisions disguised as traits. People call them luck or talent, but they are built through consistent choices. You decide what information you consume. You decide who you listen to. You decide what you tolerate. Over time, these decisions form your identity. Environment can slow you down, but it cannot stop you unless you let it. Even in difficult conditions, people have learned, created, built, and transformed their lives. Not because their environment supported them, but because their decisions overpowered it. This doesn't mean ignoring reality or pretending obstacles don't exist. It means refusing to let obstacles become excuses. You acknowledge the difficulty, then move anyway. You work with what you have while preparing for what you want. That mindset alone separates those who stay stuck from those who move forward. At some point, every person must choose between familiarity and possibility. Familiarity feels safe, possibility feels uncertain. Environment pulls you toward familiarity. Decisions pull you toward possibility. The future belongs to those who choose possibility repeatedly, even when it feels lonely. Your environment may explain your past, but it does not define your future. Decisions do. And the most powerful part is this. You don't need permission to decide differently. You don't need ideal conditions to begin. You only need the courage to take responsibility for the next choice. When you truly understand this keynote, you stop waiting. You stop blaming. You stop negotiating with comfort. You start acting with intention. And slowly, almost quietly, your life begins to change. Not because the world changed for you, but because you decided to change within it. Long-term vision with short-term patience is one of the rarest mindsets. Yet it is the foundation of every lasting success. Most people either dream big with no patience or stay patient with no direction. Both lead nowhere. Vision without patience creates frustration. Patience without vision creates stagnation. The power lies in holding both at the same time. A long-term vision gives your effort meaning. It answers the question of why you are working, sacrificing, and staying disciplined when no one is watching. Without vision, hard work feels like punishment. With vision, it feels like investment. The problem is that vision shows you a future that does not exist yet, while patience forces you to live in a present that often feels unimpressive. Balancing these two realities is difficult, and that difficulty is where most people quit. We live in a world addicted to speed. Results are expected immediately. Progress is judged instantly. Social media compresses years of effort into seconds of highlight. This distorts expectations. People start believing that if something doesn't grow quickly, it isn't working. But real growth is often slow, quiet, and invisible. At first, long-term vision protects you from this illusion. It reminds you that today's effort is not meant to impress, but to compound. Short-term patience does not mean being passive. It means staying calm or working consistently. It means accepting that progress will feel slower than expected, especially at the beginning. Impatience often leads to destructive decisions, quitting too early, changing direction too often, or chasing shortcuts that sabotage the original goal. Patience keeps you grounded when emotions try to rush the process. One of the biggest challenges with long-term vision is that it can feel overwhelming. When you see how far you want to go, the distance can discourage you. This is where patience reframes the journey. Instead of obsessing over the final destination, you focus on the next step. You stop asking, how long will this take? And start asking, oh, what can I do today? That shift reduces pressure and restores control. Remember this, progress is not loud. It doesn't announce itself. It happens in silence, in routines that feel boring, in days that feel ordinary. But those ordinary days are the ones that decide extraordinary outcomes. The future version of you is being built right now, not when conditions improve, not when motivation returns, but in this exact season. You might not see results tomorrow. You might not feel different next week. That's normal. Real change works underground before it shows above the surface. Roots grow before trees are seen. If you quit early, you'll never know how close you were. So don't wait for the perfect start. Start imperfectly. Don't chase intensity. Choose consistency. Don't measure your progress by how you feel. Measure it by whether you showed it. One disciplined decision today is more powerful than 100 plans for tomorrow. Understand this deeply. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not running out of time. You are only one decision away from moving forward again. And you can make that decision right now. When this video ends, life won't change instantly. But you will. If you let this mindset sink in, you'll stop quitting on yourself. You'll stop needing reminders. You'll start trusting the process, even when it's uncomfortable, even when nobody is watching. Stay patient. Stay focused. Stay consistent. Not for a week, not for a month, but long enough for your effort to mean something. And one day, quietly, without warning, you'll look back at this moment and realize this was the point where everything started to shift. Not because someone motivated you, but because you finally decided to take yourself seriously.